Hi everybody, I'm doing your safety share today, and today we're going to be going over tourniquets and tourniquet applications. With everybody out for the summer, these are really good to have out with you. You know, we got a lot of hunters, we got fishers, people out there enjoying their summers in the middle of nowhere. If you're in the middle of nowhere, it's probably a wise choice to take some kind of medical kit with you, and these are probably going to be one of the staples in your medical kit. Even beyond that, these are just really good to carry on you in an everyday capacity, because you never know when the time might arise where you might need to apply one. We don't really have controls over when the accidents happen, where the accidents happen. It's just our duty to be ready for when they do happen. So today we'll be looking at the cat tourniquet. This is the cat tourniquet, and the rat tourniquet. This is a rat tourniquet. Before we get into any more detail on that, let's go over the what and the why. What is a tourniquet for? A tourniquet is used to block massive bleeding in your extremities, so your arms and your legs, right? So the goal is when we have a massive bleeding in one of our extremities, we're going to use these to wrap around your limb and cut off that blood so that you don't lose it, right? We're not going to be using these in, say, a deep laceration that isn't bleeding, right? You could have a pretty big gash and not be losing that blood, right? Unless you hit an artery, one of the bigger arteries, your femoral artery, your brachial artery, right? You're not going to really need to apply this. The big key thing that's going to tell you that you need it is when the blood is going to ebb and flow in rhythm with your heartbeat, right? So let's take your femoral artery, like I've seen where you cut that femoral artery, and every time your blood pumps or your heart pumps, you're going to see a big old squirt of blood coming out of there, right? That's going to be your indicator that you need to put on a tourniquet. Tourniquets kind of fell out of favor with the medical community. They didn't have a very good reputation up until about 5 or 6 years ago. Thankfully, due to their prevalent and successful use overseas, in combat scenarios in Iraq and Afghanistan, they've come back into being recommended by the medical community. As a matter of fact, it's a good thing too, because these are really simple pieces of kit that could possibly save your life. They're not hard to carry, they're not heavy, and they don't really take all that much training to be able to apply successfully. And anyone can apply it, One of the guys I've taken classes with, his three-year-old daughter can apply a tourniquet to you and stop a bleed. So these are pretty idiot-proof, so anybody can do it. And the learning curve is really, really, really fast as well. So let's go ahead and we'll talk about our different kinds of tourniquets. This is a rat tourniquet, rapid application tourniquet, okay? This is your cat tourniquet, your combat application tourniquet. These are going to be, quote unquote, the gold standard. If you ask most of the medical community what they recommend or what you should buy, they're going to tell you to buy a Gen 7 cat tourniquet. And for good reason. These are really high quality pieces of kit. These are pretty foolproof. These are good pieces of kit. I think that these don't quite get the recognition they deserve because, the people in high places and the friends, these have been a little bit politicized to extent where they are considered better when maybe they aren't they aren't that much better than advertised or that much better than this one. There is, however, a situation where this is going to be very, very superior to that one, to this cat tourniquet. And that's going to be in situations where we're dealing with smaller framed people, so petite women, children, and pets. So yeah, you can even use these on your dog if you had to. So the problem becomes, right, we talked about how these are going to wrap around, your leg or your arm, and we're going to grit it as tight as we can, right, to stop that blood from going out. Unfortunately, here we have a limiting factor on this cat tourniquet, and it's that this plastic piece right here. Because of that plastic piece, we can only really get it that small, right? And I've seen grown women who that's basically how big their arm is around, and it's got to be a lot tighter than that to be effective. That's where a rat tourniquet comes in, because once we apply this, right, we can make that hole down to that. And you could probably use this on an infant if you had to in a pinch. Hopefully you don't have to, but you could if you really were desperate to do so. So I personally carry both because you can never have too many tourniquets, and you never know what kind of situation is going to present itself. So let's go over staging real quick. We'll start with the rat tourniquet. This one's pretty easy to stage and store. We're just going to kind of bunch it up like that, like so. And this is really easy to put in a back pocket or in your pocket or whatever, and just keep on you, put it in your purse. Actually, one of the ways that I really like to carry it, and that I will carry it a lot, is you stick this like triangle thing here. You stick that in your belt loop like so. And then you wrap the rest of this. You can wrap it through your belt loops a little bit, but you don't want to get it stuck or anything, but you can if you want to, right? And then you're just going to clip it into this metal piece, and then tuck that tail, and then you just put your shirt over it, and you're ready to go. Probably if you plan on going that route, don't buy the bright green one because it's kind of conspicuous. People are going to think you're a little weird. They're going to ask why you got a bungee cord wrapped around you, and but then again, at the end of the day, you can't really put a price or on being able to save people's lives, okay? So that is the rat tourniquet. The cat tourniquet staging, it's going to be a little bit more nuanced, okay? So make sure, we're going to go ahead and start. Make sure that you feed this tail through the buckle, right? Pretty obvious, okay? Next, I like to do this little trick with this tab here, okay? Most of the tabs are going to come straight like this. I like to turn it at like a 90-degree angle to make a little tab like this right here, okay? Sometimes, and again, seconds matter in this, right? If you're applying this to yourself, it's going to be a matter of seconds before you pass out from blood loss and you are unable to apply this correctly. So these need to be put on as quickly as possible. So any little time hack we can get, we're going to want to go ahead and go through with that, okay? So again, we're going to bend that, and we're going to have this nice little tab, right? If I'm sitting here and it's folded over on itself and I'm sitting here trying to grip it, right, that's time, okay? That's time I'm losing. So I learned this from a guy named Johnny Primo. He's used these in overseas, and he recommended this. This is a really good hack. So I like it, I do it. Okay, so from there, we're gonna go ahead and pull out about 6 inches of this tail, and we're gonna go ahead and just put it on itself, Velcro it down. We're gonna go ahead and do this. We're gonna just fold it basically like that, and then we're just going to go ahead and fold it back on itself, so it should look like this, okay? The windlass is going to be, this is the windlass, this is going to be parallel with this whole thing. The other thing too, right, is you'll see people who don't know any better, and they have this little strap here to hold the windlass in. Once you're done with it, some people will put it up across like this to store it. That's a big no-no. That is a hard no-go, right? Again, we're gonna sit here and fiddle fart trying to get this off in order to seal the windlass, and that's just time that we don't need to be wasting, okay? So for every time, we're gonna go ahead and just stick that Velcro on the same side that it comes off of, okay? What we use this strap for, it locks it in. It's also a good, it's got a thing here where you can write the time that you put it on. That's gonna be important when you hand people over to EMS, okay? So that is staging. Just a real quick note, when it comes to these tourniquets, the cat tourniquets, there are a lot of knockoffs. There are a lot of cheap versions of these, and you don't want to buy those, okay? This one is like a cheap $7 one from China, okay? The problem is that you have this windlass piece that you're going to turn to take the slack out of the tourniquet, right? And that's going to get really hard, right? You're going to be putting a lot of pressure once you start turning it. And these plastic pieces on the cheap tourniquets are known to snap, right? If this windlass snaps or this windlass breaks, this tourniquet is of no use to you anymore, okay? You need this windlass in one piece in order for the cat tourniquet to work, okay? So I have this cheap Chinese one as kind of a trainer. You can definitely do that, use these as trainers, but if you're going to carry one, you're going to want to buy this one. This is a North American Rescue Gen 7 cat tourniquet. They're a little bit more expensive. These are about $27 versus say $7, but you can't really put a price on on carrying good medical equipment. That being said, you know, $27 times 3, you know, you're going to probably need multiples, one for your purse, one for your car, one in your house, whatever the case may be. That bill is going to get, you know, pretty big pretty quick. So one thing for those of you who have HSAs, I have an HSA, you can use your HSA to purchase medical equipment like this if that's a problem. Another thing too is do not use the ones you carry for practice, okay? We want to maintain the structural integrity of our tourniquets, so do not practice with the ones that you intend on carrying for real. Okay, so let's go over application of tourniquets, okay? So let's go ahead and start with the cat tourniquet, right? So we'll say that we've got this staged in the pouch or pocket, whatever the case may be. We'll say that I'm bleeding out of my arm. Okay, one good thing that's probably good to carry as well is going to be a set of trauma shears or a hook knife. You can probably get away with using like a pocket knife for boxes or whatever, but just make sure that when you're cutting clothes, you're not putting more holes than are already in there, okay? It's good to have a set of trauma shears or a hook knife or whatever the case may be, right? So we're going to use that to cut to wherever we get. We don't want any clothing or whatever in between the skin and the tourniquet, okay? So let's say I'm bleeding out of this arm. I'm just going to roll my shirt up for now, okay? Yeah, I know everybody's sitting there like, hey man, you got the Corona 15. Well, the camera adds 10 pounds, so, you know, don't judge me. Okay. Okay, so we're bleeding. We got our cat tourniquet. We take it out of our pouch. We go ahead and open it up, okay? Fun fact, right? We're going to want to make sure that this tail is pointing to the inside of my body. We don't want it turning to the outside, okay? We're gonna come, we put it high and tight, okay? High and tight. It's nice and Velcro-y. So, the reason why we put the tail on the inside is so we can pull and then ratchet it down, okay? So, what's gonna happen if we go tail out like this, is now this is really hard for me to pull on. This is really awkward, okay? You're not going to be able to get it near as tight, and this initial tightening is going to be what really makes or break the tourniquet working, okay? So make sure when you apply the tourniquet to yourself that the tail is facing out, okay? Also, when we apply the tourniquet, make sure that you can reach the windlass, okay? If I start this and I do this and the windlass is on this side, right, we're gonna have a problem, okay? So the two things that we need to make sure we do before we start applying it is make sure the tail is pointing in and that I can reach the windlass with my hand, okay? So you come here, we're gonna get this as tight as possible. Pull and pull down, and we're gonna go ahead and wrap it around the Velcro like so, okay? From here, we're gonna go ahead and tighten this windlass as tight as we can get it, right? And trust me, it's gonna be super uncomfortable. This isn't gonna be fun, okay? So we're gonna turn it until we stop the bleeding. I'm gonna go ahead and stop there because it's not super fun. I'm gonna leave it on for a minute. The way you can tell that it's working is you're gonna come down here and check for a distal pulse. You're gonna wanna make sure. If you can still feel a distal pulse, it needs to be tighter, okay? So once we go ahead and get that windlass secured, we don't have a distal pulse, we're gonna go ahead and take this tail, pull it through, get that out of the way. We're going to take this tab, go across, we're gonna write a time down, okay? That's gonna be important again for EMS when they take over, okay? So, one more time. So, around, tail to the inside. High and tight on that subject, right? They're gonna say recommend, you know, for the most part, 3 inches above wherever the bleed is. Just go high and tight. As high as you can get it, as tight as you can get it is a general rule, right? Yeah, I mean, again, always high and tight, as high as you can get it. So, tabs on the inside, we make sure we can reach the windlass. We pull, we get it tight, and then we wrap it around the Velcro here, okay? And you should be able to see, right? It's already kind of taken off. It's already kind of cutting off the pressure because you can see like the veins and stuff popping out, right? So again, we're going to turn this windlass, I'm not going to do it all the way because, again, it sucks. We're going to pull this tab through to get it out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and seal it off, write down the time. So that has been the cat tourniquet. Next, we're going to go into the rat tourniquet. The rat tourniquet, it's got this part here. It's got this metal piece that's stuck, clamped onto this. It creates like a little triangle. We're going to take the tail and we're going to go through, just like that. Okay. And from there, I'm going to turn it just a little bit. Yeah, that works. Okay. So we pulled it through the tail. We're going to come in. Again, tail needs to be facing this hand to the inside, okay? This one, you don't need to worry about the windlass, so you can just kind of put it wherever. Again, high and tight. We're going to want to make sure it's going to be a pull and it's going to be a wrap. This is going to be kind of the same concept as applying an ace bandage. So it's going to be a pull and wrap around. Not wrapping around itself, but pretty much right next to itself. So we pull and wrap. So it's going to be pull and wrap. Pull and wrap. And pull and wrap. Again, you can kind of see that's cutting off the blood. From there, once you get it nice and tight, you're going to secure it in this metal piece here. I'm just going to do it like half-assed for now because I don't want to accidentally not be able to get this off. But what you'll see here is you have this metal piece right here. You're going to slide this tail into that horizontal piece, and you can see there's that diagonal. That diagonal is going to be where you lock it in, okay? So again, one more time, the tail comes through that triangle part. We're going to throw it around high and tight. We're going to go ahead and get a good bite. We're going to pull, and we're going to wrap. Right next to itself, pull, and then wrap. And then pull, and then wrap. Again, make sure you can check your distal pulse, and then we're going to go ahead and just tie that off. And if you don't have a pulse, you're ready to go. So that is combat application tourniquets, how you use them. Again, guys, make sure that you aren't practicing with the kit that you plan on carrying. And you might want to really consider keeping one of these around at all times and keeping them in your purse or wherever the case may be. You'll never know. A buddy of mine in Phoenix ended up saving a lady's life who was in a car accident, just randomly, with a tourniquet. So again, we don't really pick the situation. A quick note on that we don't get to pick the situation. We just need to be ready when it happens. Similarly, what you can do is you can get some of these practice tourniquets and turn it into a game with your friends and family. Have somebody have the tourniquet, have it staged or whatever the case may be. Hold on to it and at just random times throw it at you and be like, hey, left arm or right leg or whatever. And then they got to put on the tourniquet, they got to apply it right, and then you're going to time them. Okay, you can turn it into a game. Because guess what? If you are expecting a skill to be there when you need it in the heat of the moment and you haven't been practicing, that skill is not going to be there. So make sure that if you're going to carry one of these, that you're practicing with them. Thanks a lot. You guys have a good one.